Next, we have someone to give us a perspective on the investment management industry globally, because this is the core of what CFA does. We looked again and again at what we do, and what we basically are people making investment decisions and helping other people make investment decisions. So, looks like London behind you, although I'm not sure that's actually a window. Nitin Mehta is the managing director, who covers Europe, Middle East, and Africa for the CFA Institute, and he's not my boss, he's my good friend and helps us here in Russia to keep healthy and well and on track. Nitin, it's all yours.
Now, those of us who are investment practitioners are quite used to putting other industries under the microscope to look for investment opportunities. Well, for my presentation, I'm going to try and turn the lens around and put the investment management industry under the microscope. In fact, there are 4 recent pieces of work that provide some insights, and I'd like to share some of these with you. First, we have a primer on the asset management industry. It's one of several investment management guides that we commissioned and produced recently. The second study is a more substantial review of the industry by a professor at the New York University. And the third piece of research is a project that we carried out with Mercer's, the global consultants. We wanted to gain insight into the labor market for the industry, and therefore try to predict the global size of the investment management profession. And finally, the fourth piece, we carried out our annual research of investor attitudes together with Gentleman Trust. And the survey revealed an ongoing challenge to win back the trust of investors. Let me begin with the first one, the asset management industry guide. The guide points to an industry that manages more than $70 trillion of assets. Now, thousands of investment managers compete for clients in a highly competitive and mature industry. In this comprehensive examination of the industry, the author outlines the industry structure and provides perspective on portfolio management techniques, major investor client segments, and investment vehicles, as well as practical guidance for effective analysis of publicly traded asset management firms. The guide is essentially for those who want to learn more about the economics and the dynamics of the asset management business. Several industry trends are highlighted, namely the swing towards the defined benefit, defined contribution, and target date funds, the rise of passive investing, and the growth of alternatives as well. So for those wishing to look for opportunities to invest in the asset management industry, there's a chapter on analyzing the stocks of asset management companies, ranging from ownership structures to barriers to entry, competitive advantages, to analyzing the financial valuation metrics for the industries and the stocks that represent it. This industry guide is just one in a long series. In fact, the latest guide was published very recently, and it focuses on oil and gas industry around the world. So please do visit the CFA Institute website and take a look at this and the other industry guides as well. The next piece of research that I mentioned is a monograph on the industrial organization of the global asset management business, written by Ingo Walter for the CFA Institute Research Foundation. In case you're not familiar with the foundation, it's a not-for-profit organization established to promote the development and dissemination of relevant research for investment practitioners worldwide. In this study, the author starts with an overview of the asset management industry's architecture, and then he addresses the dynamics of each of its key sectors, including pension funds, mutual funds, hedge funds, private equity funds, and private wealth management. And through a straightforward but meticulous narrative, he looks at the history of each of these sectors, the challenges met during and after the economic crisis of 2007-2008, the cost and risk factors, the opportunities for growth, and the ways in which each sector is poised to meet the next chapter in its history. The author, Inga Walter, described the complexity of each of these sectors by product, by business model, and the global reach of the industry. His analysis of the pension fund sector is particularly strong. He identifies how our aging global population and the shift to a defined contribution model of retirement savings are key game changers. He speaks of the need to broaden investment options for investors and to keep an eye on some long-term outcomes as well, not simply period-to-period performance of the benchmarks. The author also shows the profitability and scale of the business, and hence its attractiveness to competition and to young people seeking a long and rewarding career. So he concludes his study the debate about asset management firms and their potential to incur systemic risk and dysregulation. He suggests that this conversation is far from over. The long study, which I commend highly, concludes on a happy note. It predicts that by 2025, 8 billion new investors and consumers will emerge globally, and they'll represent the largest single-decade increase of potential clients in the investment management industry. Global investment assets are expected to increase to more than $100 trillion by 2020. The asset management industry is likely to be one of the largest and most dynamic segments of the global financial services industry in the years ahead. Not only is this already a massive industry likely to grow faster than other parts of financial services, but also cross-border volumes, both regional and global, is likely to take an increasing share of that activity. So the future of the industry looks very bright indeed. The third piece of research that I mentioned was done with Mercer's Consulting, and essentially it was a study of the labor force within the industry and beyond. We were keen to work out what exactly the market for the CFA Institute mission was. So first of all, we set about defining the core of the investment management profession. And on this slide, you can see a matrix whereby the industry is really defined by firms that are operating in the asset management and wealth management sectors, as well as asset owners. So that's the industry. And within the industry, we have several roles, including that of the portfolio manager, the research analyst, financial advisors, and many non-investment management related positions as well. So the industry is represented by the two big rows on the top. However, the profession is narrower than that in terms of roles. So we focused only those who have something to do with the investment management decision-making process. So we focused on the portfolio manager, the research analyst, and the financial advisor roles, but well beyond the narrow investment management industry segment. So we've included those roles for commercial banks and investment banks and brokers as well. So that's our definition of the industry and the core investment management profession. So let me next take a look at the size of the labor force around the world with both those definitions. So this chart here, concentric rings of the labor force as of a couple of years ago, shows the financial services workforce. If you take the broadest definition and include all commercial banks, then there are about 40 million people working in commercial banks and in all the other financial services industry. If you narrow that down, however, to the core investment management industry segment, then you can see on the box to the right that in fact there are estimated to be only about 1 million people working in asset management. only 200,000 working in wealth management and 100,000 who work for asset owners like the big private wealth managers and the likes of Adia in Abu Dhabi and so on. So there's less than 1.5 million people working in the core investment management industry. So how does that break down by country? Well, as you'd imagine, the United States dominates the industry. The 5 largest investment labor markets, in fact, are the US, China, Japan, Canada, and the UK. And they make up almost 3/4 of the total investment management workforce in the 24 countries that were included in this study. What I've highlighted on this slide is Russia's place in the industry. And you can see that by comparison, Russia, of course, is a much smaller industry, but perhaps no more than around 7,000 people that can be counted as part of that industry. You also took a look at the rate of growth, both in asset management, but more importantly, in wealth management as well. Everything being equal, wealth management is growing at a faster pace than the broader asset management business, and we charted the different countries on those 2 axes. And you can again see that the large dots in the top right-hand corner are largely of the developing markets in Asia and in Latin America, whereas the more stable markets are of course, in the bottom left-hand corner, because they're mature, their growth in both asset management and in wealth management is slower by comparison. And Russia is somewhere in between those more mature, stable markets and the very fast-growing markets in the Far East. However, when you look at the core investment management profession that goes beyond the definition of the industry that I mentioned, beyond just the asset managers and the private wealth managers, and if you include the commercial banks and others, and focus narrowly on the 3 job categories of portfolio managers, research analysts, and financial advisors, then the picture is somewhat different. You can see that Russia is in fact bigger than Germany or Canada or France. In fact, if you look at the investment management profession, then there are anywhere between 40 and 50,000 such professionals in Russia. So a very sizable market for the investment management profession. And we expect that to grow from around 40,000 today to more than 50,000 in 2025, in 10 years' time. So growth projections from this study showed that the investment management industry is projected to grow at around 28% over the next 10 years. Wealth management, by comparison, is expected to grow slightly faster at 34%. The core investment professionals are expected to grow by 24% over the next 10 years, and the fastest growing markets, as I mentioned, are in Latin America, in the United Arab Emirates, China, Korea, India, Asia. And in the rank order of countries by employment is projected to stay stable in most cases, and China will aggressively approach the United States as the largest market for investment professionals. And as a result, the regional distribution of investment management professionals will shift from around 38% in Asia Pacific today to 45%, approaching in fact 50% by 2025 in 10 years' time from now. So where does that leave the mission for CFA Institute? What is the market penetration? But this slide shows some of the estimates that we've arrived at for that penetration. So the way we calculate it is by putting the number of members that we have globally in the numerator and the investment management profession numbers that you saw earlier in the denominator. Doing that, we arrive at a market penetration level globally of around 9%. If we add the number of candidates in the CFA program to the numbers in the numerator, then we get another 12%. In other words, if we combine CFD Institute members and CFD program candidates, then market penetration for CFD Institute mission is probably around 20%, 22% to be exact. And you can see the variation across the major regions, starting at around 31% for America, down to a much smaller 40% in EMEA. So market penetration is decent, but far from 100%. What is that penetration for our mission by markets? Well, Canada and the United Arab Emirates really lead the league table here, where you can see that almost half of all those who are practicing investment professionals either have the CFD charter, or they're a member of CFD institutes, or they're in the process of becoming CFD institute members. In other words, they're candidates. So penetration for those top markets is fairly high. However, at the other end, down at the bottom, you can see that there's room for considerable more growth in other markets, including Russia. We reckon that the market penetration for Russia is probably no higher than around 1%, and even if you add the candidates for the CFD program, then it's still no better than 4%. So I think the future is bright in terms of potential growth for CFD Institute mission for professionalizing the investment management industry in Russia. If you look at that potential in a different way, if you include the total number of investment professionals, then you can see that in fact Russia represents perhaps one of the biggest markets in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, the region that my team and I are responsible for. So compared to the United States, of course the numbers are much smaller, but in EMEA, Russia has a potential that equals that of the biggest financial center in Europe, and that's the United Kingdom. So a lot of potential for Russia looking ahead. Okay, next let's turn to the final piece of research that I mentioned, which is a study of investor trust. And the last time we did this was back in 2013 with Edelman Trust. We polled around 3,000 retail investors in 10 markets, and we also asked 500 institutional investors in 6 major markets. And the good news is that investor trust since 2013 has improved, but it's still low. So when we ask investors how much they trusted businesses in each of the following industries to do the right thing, then you see that technology fared very well, with almost 80% or 4 out of 5 people relying on the technology business to do the right thing, and with media right at the bottom. But back in 2013, financial services was right at the bottom, and it had been there for a number of years following the outbreak of the global financial crisis. But today, with time having elapsed, you see that trust is returning to financial services, but there's room for much improvement. It's still low, it's around 61%. We asked investors about the likelihood of the next financial crisis, and the responses varied quite widely depending on where the investors were. So investors in India were the most fearful that there would be another financial crisis possibly in the next few years. The other end of the scale, investors in the UK were the most confident. But when we totaled all the investors across retail investors and institutional investors, roughly a third of investors expected there to be another crisis in the next few years. But the majority, almost 2 out of 3, expected there to be no crisis. In other words, we're past the worst. We also asked other questions of our investors. We asked them how important are the following attributes when it comes to working with an investment firm. In other words, what are the most important criteria for hiring an investment manager? Well, the responses were slightly different between retail around the world. For retail investors, the most important attributes were cost transparency, data security, and clarity for an explanation of cost by the investment manager. For institutional investors, the most important aspects were the ethical conduct of the manager they hired, the transparency of fees, and data security as well. So it's interesting that data security and fears about breach of data security is now becoming much more important compared to earlier years. But one way or the other, the focus on cost transparency and explanation about fees is high on the agenda for investors. We also asked investors about what they looked at before they fired an investment manager. In other words, what are the top 5 reasons investors are most likely to leave an investment firm? Again, the responses were different slightly between retail and institutional investors, but the ranking was similar. In other words, performance, surprise, surprise, was the most important aspect, and the performance was the most likely reason to fire an investment manager. And after that, fees, confidentiality, communication, and sanctions against ethical misconduct were likely to be the most cited reasons for firing an investment managers. So based on this study of trust, what really matters to investors? Well, what matters are high ethical standards, transparency in communications, and ultimately a partnership with their investment manager. This is what investors told us are important criteria for hiring, firing investment managers. I think if we were focused on this feedback, then perhaps we gain the trust that's been eroded over the last 10 years or so. So with that, let me conclude. I know this is a forecasting dinner, so I'll leave you with a couple of forecasting notes. The first one by Nitin Mehta, which says that prediction is always difficult, especially when it's about the future. And Mark Twain explained that forecasting is a good business, but it's full of risk. But we're doomed to make forecasts. In fact, that's a very key element of what investment managers do. And to do that well, you need to be technically competent, you need to have the right character, and we need to come together at events like this to discuss the forecasts with other market practitioners in the right positions. So with that, let me wish you luck with your growth forecast and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Nitin. Always good to have a global perspective on what's happening around the world.